Tell, the podcast presented by Respect My Region. We are joined today by Jennifer Mitchell, the founder of Natura Solve, which is a leader in bioaugmentation and a company that develops products of microorganisms that are designed to break down environmental pollutants, as well as promote positive plant growth and assist in soil and water conservation. Is that right, Jennifer? Did I get it right?
That was great.
Excellent. Yep. So cool. Well, I am very excited to have you on. Do you want to give a little elevator pitch or anything like that before we get started?
Yeah. So I really love the dirt and the bugs that grow in it, and I didn't know how small those bugs got. And so my background's actually in business and marketing. And when I found something that I could do that would help grow the earth from underneath me and I could go play in the dirt, I got in. So I loved it. Love your industry and great people. So we'll leave the rest of the elevator pitch for later. Tell us, you get a started. Tell us about you.
Oh, well, I actually have my degree in horticulture, and I specifically studied rhizosphere biology. So I studied the little organisms that you're specifically referring to, actually. I was developing drought-resistant Arabidopsis thaliana and corn. So I was using Mitsuria and Burkholderia, which were the two genuses of bacteria I was specifically studying. So do you have any of those in your products?
We keep all of that in a safe box, and the people that know where the key to that box is, we keep in a closet somewhere.
Nice. That's awesome.
It's what we do is a biological process. So there's really, trade secrets, kind of like Coca-Cola, but what we do is not unnatural. It's completely natural processes. And so there is no patent, there's no asides, there's no chemical to what we do. And so there's a different type of marketing that takes definitely a different type of person that will hop into doing something like that. You have to really love what you do, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm very aligned with the sustainability and natural remediation of the soil and things like that. Those are definitely things that I was very passionate about, and I'm still very passionate about. The cannabis industry, we do things a little differently. I mean, we're not always outdoor. Some people grow outdoor. How do you get your product into cannabis operations? Like, how does that work?
Easier than alfalfa farms. She almost fit. That was awesome.
Farmers are not the easiest people to work with. Like traditional ag, no.
It's a legacy thing. It's a family thing. It's a pride thing. It's grandpa said do this, but the thing is our soil's dying. And so what I have found is that we've just stripped out the biology, and it sounds simplistic, and maybe it comes from being simple, but put it back. And so compost isn't fast enough. And what we have is a liquid medium. But how I got into cannabis in that industry really was the Farm Bill. As soon as that came out in 2014, I hadn't started my company yet, but I had found a product through my marketing business that I thought might do something. And I met this incredible individual whose name is Brooke. He was the first person that took that leap, and he passed away last year. Sorry. He was backcountry skiing, triggered an avalanche, and unfortunately he didn't make it. But his whole community came around and bought his beautiful wife and child a house, and that's what it's like, I think, in the cannabis community. So I was really excited about that. But when the Farm Bill came out, I thought, here's an opportunity to get to people that really are the newer generation of farmers, the ones really studying, okay, how do we repair from NPKs? How do we move away from the status quo that's filling our canals, which have always been a bad idea, with tons of salts? And how do we protect, our rights to good health and some other things that I really did see as the upside in the industry. So I was one of the first people, I think, to go out there and ask somebody to test it. And it just really, now how I get in is slowly, one person at a time, like any farm. But I find the availability of people to listen in the cannabis culture is different. Like, I've just had such great, that's how I met your team, is at an industry event, and
Yeah.
everything about soil. So it's
Yes.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Joey, Colin, all those guys, they go to a lot of events, and God bless them. They can socialize for a long time.
Yep. But they're talking about the right topics, and I thought that was really cool. And that's what encouraged me to take, the leap to drive. I was a single self-employed mom at the time with this product that I knew would do something, and I drove from Utah to Oregon to connect with a farmer. And at first he's like, share all my data, and then it worked, and he said, don't share my data. But now I'm okay to share some of the stuff. So it's just, it's interesting to me because the depth of the soil, and and if you're in anything to do on the, like you said, indoor and outdoor, there's some different considerations completely there. But the biology, either in water and soil, is really what helps to feed that life cycle. And it doesn't matter where you put it, it'll help balance itself out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, does your product work on all medias? Since this is a cultivation specific podcast, we have people who grow in rock wool, we have people who grow in cocoa, people grow in a soilless media, so something that mimics soil. Do people use your product on all different types of media, or are there certain ones that it works on?
So we've only done tests in certain areas. I would be interested, and we do testing all the time with, different people. We have people what was it? Last month I was up in Hood River on this beautiful, 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 it's called High Latitude Farms. And they have a fish farm that they have purchased and repurposed with a cannabis farm on there. And what they do, and the amount of studies that go into their whole process, everybody's different. Let's just say that every media is different, but even under that, every grower is different. I've never been in a room. My dad's a mechanic, and I thought those guys fought it out over cars. I thought NASCAR driver, they'll go to blows over who drives left fastest or whatever. Right. But growers are just like a whole nother level, because, and they're not wrong, because a minutia of light, a little bit of different wave of wind, it changes how things grow. And so I'd say we're willing to test everything. We've tested some stuff. And so if you have, soil and water are the easiest, because those are really where we own. But I know that we have a few different farms that have used, well, I have a short list of what they've used. So I'd ask for specific, but we haven't seen anywhere it doesn't work, because it's when you put biology into the roots of the plants, and it increases the uptakes of the available nutrients. It decreases the water needed, increases the nutrient uptake, and we haven't seen it not work anywhere. So as long as you have water or soil as part of your flow, as part of your system, which if you don't have either of those, I'd like to talk to you about how you grow.
I was gonna say, you gotta have both, or you gotta have at least the water. Some people are growing in nutrient film technology or aeroponics, right? But very few people are doing that, in my experience, at least. That's more of a big ag kind of mentality. But yeah, I think everybody can benefit from microbes. I share that belief with you, because these plants evolved in connection with those microbes when they were out in the world, obviously. And then when we moved them indoors and we thought that we could give them everything they needed, we fell short. Yeah. And I think that's the case with most synthetic nutrient lines and things like that. We just don't understand every single component. And then at the same time, we don't understand what each cultivar wants, what different things they want, because we obviously selected them to be different. It makes sense that they would be, they would have preferential nutrient needs, and they would have preferential microbial needs, right? One thing that I studied was how the plants feed those microbes and select those microbes. So not to, get into your proprietary information, but is there a starting source that you pulled these microbes from? Like, how did you decide which microbes to put in your formulation?
Right. Yeah. Excellent question. So originally it came from a mix that was available not from the United States. It was a mix created for a completely different purpose. And once I've been working on this for a while now, so
Yeah.
8 years into research and hardcore company stuff, but I have a chemist that's absolutely brilliant. So regardless of the mix, like bacteria is available pretty much everywhere. Lick your hands or some there, go
Yeah,
outside.
tap water, right? Tap water has like 500 CFU colony forming units just in your tap water.
Right. And so what we found is the best way, especially with supply chain issues, global infrastructure issues, all of that, is that we're just going to grow globally and build our manufacturing using local species. And we just have figured out how to grow them together and and build kind of a chain in a way that one does one job and another does another, and they kind of make this whole beautiful symbiotic relationship. And so
Yeah.
we figured out like that key to it. And so after that, it's really just figuring out what's best for that indigenous environment so we don't disrupt the local ecology. We have kind of a one size fits all mix with water mix and soil mix. They're the same thing, just different concentrations, and they work really, really well in like so many situations. But we also just developed a saltwater strain. And so now we have, bacteria not all of them like saltwater. And so we had to develop a custom strain so they don't die. And so we just got done with that one. And we're doing some other things in different arenas, septic and stuff. But, the important thing to remember is that not remember, I guess, it was just a thought the other day, is that bioremediation or bioaugmentation, the breakdown of things in nature, and then the re-establishment of those microbes in the soil is a part of nature, whether we're doing it or whether Mother Nature has to come in and do it long term. So we're just trying to help shorten the distance between here and great permaculture here and awesome sustainable composting, living soils. It's just everything's been stripped so fast that we feel we are in deep recovery mode of our soils and our agriculture and our water. And we need to be able to cut nutrient uses. I mean, the war is just going to wreak havoc on fertilizer and nutrients across the board. So we feel that we've got a great solution there, but we're constantly in development because we're like that. We love it. We like the questions.
Well, it's funny that you bring up how we're, starting from a low point essentially in agriculture, because when we're starting in cannabis and we're cultivating from clone, right, those plants don't even have roots to begin with. So, they truly have zero microbes on their root system at that time until you plant them into soil, until you inoculate them with something beneficial. And so it's really cool that you're developing a product that would you suggest it to people to put on their clones? Would you suggest it to people to wait and put it on more of their more mature plants, or does it really matter?
It doesn't really matter. We find that you only need a few treatments a year as well. So it's not something, and once you get the biology sustained, depending on what your growth looks like. So if you're outside and you have an outdoor, say, pressurized irrigation system that feeds your farm, over time, that biology is going to grow. You're going to need less and less of our product. So maybe as a business owner, you should think about that. But you need less and less. It's not like a chemical; it doesn't burn off and disappear.
That's why you want cannabis people, because we cut our plants down after 3 months. Like, we're done with that. We got to start all back.
It's just getting that. It's just getting that cycle going and speeding it up a little bit so that it helps to get that biology back in the soil, compost things faster. But, I haven't seen any situations where it's not good in. People use it pre-seed. They use it in their dirt. I had a guy, he told people to put in 5 ounces because you don't need very much at all. And he told them to put in 5 ounces. They put in 5 gallons, and he came back and he was waiting for everything to die. And he's like, no, it went better. He bought more. So we haven't found, I don't know that it worked better. I think it was like he's like, farming is like the hardest job known to mankind. You can do the best thing in the world, and the wrong pest comes in, your life's, it's just, or fire blows in, it's just, is one of those things. But yeah, we think we give everybody a fighting chance to cut their water, cut their fertilizer drastically, or nutrients, whatever it is that they use. But the biggest thing is it's about building that sustainability. And that's why I like Colin, is because when I met him, I all nerded out on the sustainability of it and the long term, because the long term is you don't need me anymore. And that's supposed to be the idea of a quality product for the environment, is that you reset it and then it's off and running like a kid when you take the training wheels off. It's not meant to be
well, that's what people often do when they have a living soil system in an indoor cultivation facility. You can make a compost tea from your soil near the end of the life of your cannabis plant. So you can re-inoculate with that soil consortium as long as you make some kind of viable tea with it, which actually kind of brings me to an interesting point. Are the microbes in your product alive, or are they shelf stable? Because that's one thing I've noticed with different products is like dry formulations are shelf stable for much longer. Yours is a liquid formulation, right? Do you have problems with that?
I love that you asked that question, because that's the thing that actually makes us different than everybody else.
Yeah.
We're pre-market a lot of these other guys. There's a lot of answers in agriculture in general, but when you're talking about something that will clean up your water, keep down the algae if you've got aquaponics going, or help with your soil, get rid of heavy metals, break down pesticides that were in there, whatever it is, we've got that broad array. It's kind of like an old sourdough start. I'm from Utah, so that's what you can compare it to. Is like that, that they put on your doorstep at Christmas. And but the thing is ours is shelf stable for 3 to 8 years. 3 if it's open, 8 if it's 8 if it's closed. And so that's the difference. Is yes, it's alive, and yes, it's shelf stable. We don't you don't have to refrigerate. You can't freeze it or put it in direct sunlight like we don't want to be.
Sure.
In 180 degrees, and I'm golden.
Yeah.
Scottsdale's out too. 120 is still too much, but I think if you just kind of look at it as it's something that we've put in kind of a suspended state of animation. And as soon as you mix it with water, it goes crazy, and they hyper reproduce and they hyper feed, and they kind of acclimatize. A lot of people worry too, because biology works great in Florida and not so good in the desert. But this is not like that. We've put in such an array of species that they do certain things with each other that helps them to, we're in Kenya, we're in Navajo Nation, we're in Florida, we're in Oregon, we're all over the place. And so the environmental adaptability and malleability around what type of things are going wrong with your soil, it's just biology. That's all it is. Is we put a bunch of it in, they fight it out. The stuff that wins and has a food source there goes until it doesn't have a food source anymore, it dies off, and then your soil's great. And you have that organic matter, and everyone's happy.
I've always equated it to a dinner table. Like the root itself is kind of a dinner table, and there can be good players that sit at the dinner table, or there can be bad players that sit at the dinner table. They're feeding off, somewhat of the same things, right? But if you inoculate your roots with the good people, the good ones that you want to sit at the table, there isn't room for the bad ones. There isn't room for Pythium or Rhizoctonium or, any of those other bad people, bad players, when you've already set them up for success. So,
and if I like that metaphor. If you take that a little further and you say you got all those people feeding all that good energy up the plant, all the right food sources, all the other ones are getting kicked out. And then all of a sudden that stalk is healthier, the leaf is healthier. Little bugs run back and forth because it can't bite because it's too strong for them.
Yes, people totally neglect the cell wall formation, the aspects of microbial, like positive microbes in cell wall formation. You will have a stronger overall plant if your plant's roots are happier and more sustained, and they're getting the nutrients from the soil that you're trying to feed them, right? So,
the other thing we found there that was interesting last year, we were at a community gardens, and they actually started to notice how many different leaves there were in treated to untreated plants, because when you have a plant that gets enough nutrients, it also doesn't need as many leaves. So it has less leaves and more fruit. And then when you have more fruit, you have more bees. And so they counted the bees and they counted the leaves, and they had more fruit to leaves and more bees. It was like 20 acres of corn, I think is what they started on. It was 11-4 on treated to untreated acreage of corn in 20-foot rows, which is a note. I mean, they noticed it is why they started
Yeah,
measuring.
that's
But it's like,
interesting.
yeah, it's, and that's just the thing is we've just slipped out of that balance. And, I know we're getting to our time, but one thing I would say is none of this is new.
Right.
When
Mhm.
Columbus got here, I like to say he missed the boat because everything was landscaped. Like they had things landscaped to keep bumper crops, to keep deer here, and
Yeah.
these bugs fed these plants that were toxins to those trees. And we just thought it was nature, but it was really, really high quality landscaping. And
Mhm.
there's a way to go back to that whole ecology idea, even in every farm that we've got, and looking at, okay, what do I put in here, outside of products and things you can do? What do you put in your environment to keep the good bugs in,
Mhm.
bees and butterflies, and the bad bugs out, moths, and whatever it is that's going to be good or bad for your environment? Because there's a
Mhm.
lot we can do that's out there. And the NPKs, the fertilizer, they just won the war. It's 1963, I think. This science isn't new. It's just they got
Mhm.
outmarketed, and they've made everybody look like silly little frauds with snake oil or whatever, talking about
Right.
bugs.
Yeah,
I
I
want to put bacteria. Go tell me I want to put bacteria in their water, and they're like, "Okay,
mean,
there's the door."
yeah.
But it's important. There's good bugs, there's bad bugs, gut health, plant health, soil health, water health. They're all, part of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, would you suggest like are part of your next moves then like a foliar applicant? Because in cannabis, we deal with a lot of foliar pests, specifically like spider mites or white flies, thrips, things like that. Do you guys have plans to develop something to combat more above ground issues, or are you going to focus on the roots?
So we find that focusing on the roots actually takes care of the above ground issues for the most part. We
Cool.
have a lot of. I have one guy down in Gold Hill, and he's a younger guy, and he started one farm, and it went really, really well. And he said, "I just spray it and forget it." And he actually has a helicopter as a crop duster.
Damn.
It's so cool. And then the next year he bought 3 more farms, and he just does not have any pest problems whatsoever. So
Wow.
we've been doing some studies on that, in a lot of different parts of agriculture, not just cannabis. But when you have that stronger plant, when you have that stronger leaf, you attract not just you don't have the side effects of pests, but you also attract the right insects in that environment. If you've got the
Mhm.
right balance going on, you don't get all the invasive species. Same with weeds. If
Mhm.
there's strong plants that are native to the area that have the nutrients they need, you're not losing to the weeds. It's really making the plants that you need there as strong as they can be, and it kind of pushes it out. So we're not
Mhm.
really, we hear that it's fine to foliar sprayed. We get a lot of feedback. I always put it in the dirt because that's what I do. But
Well, that's
um,
where the microbes came from, right? I mean, you don't want to reveal where they necessarily came from, and there are some microbes that go on both, but they came
right.
from the soil. It kind of makes sense to put them back in the soil.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's where I put them, and it
yeah,
seems to make the plant strong enough to not really have those side effects. So
awesome.
we don't
No,
see
that's
a lot
super
of
cool.
difference.
So what are the next steps? Like, what are your plans? What are you doing moving forward?
So much. Right now we're in a global soil and water crisis, and I barely can be at home, or stay in one place because everybody needs help. And it went from like nobody cared, Jen, you're a tree hugger. Nobody cared, Jen, you're a tree hugger. Nobody cared. Do you know what? There's a problem. Oh my gosh, there's a problem. Jen, did you know? And then I'm like, you know
Yeah, I've
what?
been
No,
saying there's a
I just
problem.
got this whole company over here that I've been building slowly forever, to combat these exact things. Because if you watch and if you love, nature like we all do, it's like you watch it move forward, and it just seems like if the biology is gone, like Kiss the Ground, Woody Harrelson saw that. If you see, put it back,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's how you put it back that's the important part. And so
Mhm.
we've got a team of incredible experts, and we're scaling globally. I mean, pathogens in water is a huge issue, and balancing of water in our waterways, not just on a farm level, but from a community level, from a county level, from
Mhm.
a state level, from a reservoir level. We've been working on all kinds of different fronts because I feel that it shouldn't really be the end user. The only reason I honestly talk to end users and farmers is because cities and council members and and politicians and corporations told me, you won't get there fast enough through our slow devices. You've got to go to the people. And it's really, really, really hard to hear because I don't know if you know, but I don't really look like a farmer. And when I show up and I tell them the processes, they're like,
who are you? Yeah, why are you telling me what to do?
Right. And I'm like, so I went and gave a speech at the Mosquito Abatement Association because we get rid of mosquitoes like pretty well. And anyway, I go in there and I'm in all my Gucci stuff. And I walk in and I'm like, this was a sore mistake. And so I get up there, and they're all in overalls and everything. And I get up there and I was like,
you got to wear the outfit. You got to integrate. You got to get the Carhartt overalls, man.
I had never, ever, ever in my life been to an event where people weren't at least wearing like the business casual. And it wasn't like super over the top, but it was business casual, but nice. Yeah. And they're like came from their work and they came to do the. So I got up there and I just said, please excuse me for my manner of dress. I got here today from another event and they just all busted up. But I was like, I love the dirt as much as anybody. I just need obviously.
Oh, that's so funny, dude.
Yeah, I love it. And I love being like, how we started. Why am I here? I have 2 girls and they keep hearing all the defeatist mentalities. If we're out of water, we're out of soil. No, we're not. It's just dirty and in the wrong spots. Let's just get back and we can do it really quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, and what now?
I said, with all the bugs you love.
With all the bugs, yes, that we both love. Yes. Amazing. Oh, that's super cool. Well, we are wrapping up. So I think this is a pretty good note to end on, unless there's anything else you want to say or bring to people's attention or anything like that.
The one thing I would say is we got this. Like it's important to remember that not only are there solutions, there are it's not just my company too. There's so many people doing the work and it's not on social media. And I come from marketing. It's not on the news. Mm-hmm. It's not on television. It's the people doing the work behind the scenes and their solutions and they're rapid. We really got this. We really got this, but it's one person at a time, like Colin to me to you, and you to everybody you got around you.
Hopefully a lot of people will pay attention.
I love it. Well, and one person at a time, then when it works, amazingly enough, that news travels fast.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. I appreciate you joining us. And for everybody else, remember to please, do the like and subscribe thing. I am told to promote. Find me on LinkedIn, find Jennifer on LinkedIn, check out the products, do all those good things, protect your soil, listen to to what we're saying. We're both agreeing on this thing, which doesn't always happen on these podcasts. But soil microbial consortiums are very important in the cannabis industry, as well as in a healthy environment for us to live in, for us to exist in. So please be mindful of that and educate yourselves about the soil biology, living soil, all those things that we can all benefit so much from. So thank you again, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Of course. All right. I love it. Bye, everyone.